The powers of the air and the essence of communication. Deep flow. Communication is not only about human interactions, but also about the spiritual forces that influence them. One such influential entity is the prince of the power of the air, the devil. As stated in Ephesians 2:4, this prince has been intercepting signals, causing confusion and interrupting speech since the inception of mankind. It is he who convinced Eve that Elohim's spoken word held a hidden agenda, thus triggering the corruption of communication. This interference in communication can be identified in many areas of life, from personal relationships to religious prophecies. An insightful example can be found in 1 Corinthians 14:30-33, where Apostle Paul provides guidance on prophetic communication. Although addressed to the prophets, Paul's advice resonates with all who seek to communicate effectively. Paul stresses the importance of order and patience in communication. If revelation strikes while another prophet is speaking, the recipient should remain silent, retaining the revelation until their turn to speak. This highlights the principle of deliberate communication from deep flow. Although the speaker holds a powerful message, they must deliver it at the appropriate time. Moreover, Paul's words underline the principles of edifying and encouraging communication. Every person should be given an opportunity to speak and be heard, ensuring that all may learn and be encouraged. This pushes for a balanced exchange of ideas, knowledge, and perspectives. Paul's message extends further to emphasize the control that communicators have over their speech, or the prophetic component of deep flow. He declares that the spirits of the prophets are subject to the prophets. This powerful assertion reinforces the idea that even in the face of divine revelation, prophets retain the power to control the timing and delivery of their messages. Lastly, Paul asserts that God is not the author of confusion. This statement presents a divine endorsement for the core D.E.E.P, flow principles of clarity, respect, and understanding. If God, the ultimate communicator, values order and peace, then striving for these values in our everyday communication is paramount. Matthew 18:16 further elaborates on the importance of clear communication, especially in times of disagreement. It underscores the necessity of having objective witnesses to confirm every spoken word and help establish understanding. This scripture encourages the practice of deliberate and prophetic communication, encouraging us to be conscious of our words and their impacts. Through all these scriptures, we are reminded that our ability to communicate effectively is not only about mastering the art of conversation. It's about acknowledging and resisting the confusing influences of the prince of the air and aligning our communication with the divine principles of deep flow, deliberate, edifying, encouraging, and prophetic communication. In doing so, we not only enhance our interactions with others, but we also honor the most critical message ever communicated, the glorious gospel of Christ, the unseen battle in communication. As we delve deeper into the principles of deep flow communication, it becomes necessary to consider the unseen influences that can impede our attempts to converse effectively. Alongside the cognitive and emotional factors that play into how we receive and deliver messages, spiritual forces can significantly impact our communication. According to the scriptures, these spiritual forces or spirits can attach themselves to areas of darkness, sin, or rebellion in our lives. They wield the power to influence and distort our communication, often turning simple exchanges into confusing battlefields. Ephesians 6:12 reminds us that our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. At times, an innocuous statement can be misinterpreted and escalated into a heated argument, leaving both parties bewildered about how a simple conversation spiraled out of control. It's not uncommon for each person to claim they're in the right and the other is wrong. exacerbating the conflict and further confusing the communication. However, it's crucial to recognize that these misunderstandings and disputes might not solely be the result of human error or stubbornness. We must consider the possibility of unseen spiritual forces working against our attempts to connect, understand, and reconcile. These disruptive spirits capitalize on our weaknesses, our dark corners, turning them into a breeding ground for misunderstanding and discord. Their ultimate aim is to create division and strife, disrupting harmony and unity, as these are states where love and understanding can flourish. Becoming aware of these spiritual interferences in our communication helps us better navigate our interactions with a more profound sense of empathy and patience. Recognizing that the other person might not be the enemy, but rather an unwilling pawn in an unseen battle, can foster an attitude of forgiveness and understanding. Cognizant of these unseen forces, we can employ deliberate and prophetic communication, consciously choosing our words, timing, and manner of speaking. Furthermore, by maintaining an attitude that edifies and encourages, we can counteract the negative influences that aim to sow discord. By grounding our communication in love, patience, and understanding, we build a fortress that is less susceptible to spiritual disruption. This approach brings us closer to achieving a deep flow in our communication, strengthening our relationships, and fostering unity, harmony, and mutual understanding. Seeking clarity amidst unseen disturbances. In our quest to master the art of deep flow communication, our understanding of unseen spiritual forces impacting our exchanges can help us navigate potential miscommunications. This understanding can guide us to practice patience, empathy, and discernment, encouraging dialogue over debate. One critical strategy to prevent misunderstandings is to avoid arguing about what was said versus what was heard. If a person misquotes us, we can clarify our intent when it's our turn to speak again. Equally, if we're the ones who misheard, we should avoid making a big fuss about them claiming that they didn't say what we thought we heard. This simple shift in focus can keep the conversation from escalating into unnecessary conflict. It's crucial to remember that in a conversation, the objective isn't about winning or losing, but understanding and being understood. This awareness allows us to steer clear of defending our stance aggressively and instead channel our energies towards maintaining harmony in the interaction. Asking questions can be an effective tool to gain clarity and ensure that both parties are on the same page. Phrases such as, "Am I understanding you to say?" "Did you mean to say?" or "What I heard you say was," allow for clarification and help create an atmosphere of understanding. Here are other techniques to foster clarity and keep potentially disruptive spiritual forces at bay. 1. Paraphrase. Repeat what you've heard in your own words. This not only demonstrates active listening, but also gives the speaker an opportunity to correct any misunderstandings. 2. Avoid interruptions. Let the speaker finish their thoughts before interjecting yours. Interrupting can lead to fragmented thoughts and increased miscommunication. 3. Be conscious of nonverbal cues. Body language, tone, and facial expressions often communicate as much, if not more, than words. Be aware of these cues, both from your own and the speaker's end. 4. Maintain open body language. Uncross your arms, maintain eye contact, and lean in slightly. This shows that you are open, receptive, and engaged in the conversation. 5. Practice patience. Communication is a two-way street that requires patience. Take a moment to breathe and think before responding to ensure your message is clear and intentional. By being deliberate and careful with our words, maintaining an edifying and encouraging attitude, and applying prophetic wisdom in our interactions, we can create a protective shield against any potential disturbances to our communication. In doing so, we can move closer towards the goal of effective and enriching deep flow communication.